Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're a busy girl, so we really appreciate your time. I'm going to do a little introduction because it feels a bit silly actually introducing you, because I know absolutely everyone listening to this is going to be a massive fan. But just in case there's like 3 people out there who don't know who you are, Cherry is an incredible, I would say, YouTube internet guru. She has 132,000 followers on Instagram, well over 300,000 followers on YouTube, subscribing to her channel. She provides videos, content, tutorials, motivational, aspirational content across all sorts of internet platforms, and has an incredible brand. So in terms of girl crushes, she's right up there at the top. So I'm going to start off, Cherry, asking you what I ask everybody on our podcast. How did it all start?
Oh, goodness. Well, keep going. Keep talking about how amazing I am.
Oh, of course.
It all started in 2005. I was always in vintage style, but at Viva Vegas at the show, and it was actually like a vanity move. I was sitting in a vintage truck, and I was really sitting in it to get out of the wind to save my hair. And it just happened that it was a red truck, and I was wearing a red sweater, and I was sucking on a red sucker. And a photographer took a picture from, must have been a mile away. I didn't even see him. And then a few months later, he emailed me, and he was like, hey, I took this picture of you because I was in all the car forums because I owned vintage cars. So he knew who I was, and he was like, hey, Old School Rods wants to put you on the cover. Can I publish this picture? And I was like, oh, okay, that would be fun. I guess, yeah, sweet. And then after that, I just started having companies emailing me, asking me to model their things. And back then, I mean, you didn't really make, I mean, not that you make money now, but back then people didn't really pay for things. They just wanted to trade you and things. Mm-hmm. So I was like, sweet, I'm going to get all these free things, and this is going to be such a fun little hobby. And so that's kind of how the modeling thing started. And then I moved to LA in 2008, and then a few years later, a friend of mine actually worked for YouTube, and he was like, you should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, well, what would I do? Because back then it was either comedy channels or like viral videos. Yeah. The beauty thing wasn't really taking off yet, but I always had girls asking me how I was doing my hair and makeup for my photo shoots. So I was like, oh, that might be kind of cool. Then I don't have to like type out explaining. I can just send them to a video.
Yeah.
So my thinking then was like, oh man, if I could get like 300 people to follow me, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
So I really had no idea. I just happened to be kind of ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Kind of in everything that I did in the vintage world. So really, like, I think, you know, probably half of it was a lot of hard work, and then the other half was just absolute pure luck.
Being right time, right place. But like you say, a huge amount of work that goes into that as well. I think, you know, from the outside, people can see, you know, the huge success you've achieved. But I imagine an incredible amount of time has gone into building. I mean, it's a huge amount of videos that you have online, and, you know, it's a full-time job. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it absolutely. It's probably like a full and a half time job.
Yeah. So what's the next step for Cherry Dollface then? Where do you see, you know, taking the brand forward? You know, what exciting things do you have going on?
So the funny thing is like every 5 years I get asked what my 5-year plan is, and I always say I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because 5 years ago I would never have foreseen that I would be here now. I did go to business school. That's what my degree is in. So I am very business minded, which I think has helped me in doing what I do and into actually making it into my career versus just a hobby, which I'm really lucky because a lot of girls that are doing what we do can't do that. So I am actually designing a full line with Iron Fist clothing, which I know you guys do also put there in the UK.
Amazing.
I'm really, really excited. I just had another design meeting last week, and it's going to be like a dress, a skirt, a sweater, a play suit, 3 pairs of shoes, a purse. Like, there's going to be probably 9 or 10 pieces in this collection. They're all sort of themed, so they're all going to be my little, I don't know, brainchild. So I'm really excited about that, and that's coming out in spring of next year. We're hoping for like May, like spring, summer.
That's awesome.
What else? I don't know. I'm writing a book. That's the other thing, which actually when we finish this call.
Amazing.
And it's going to be sort of like, it's not going to be a coffee table book. It's going to be more of like a manual for girls on sort of vintage life. I'm not going to give too much away.
Amazing.
Still my book idea, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. So I don't know. I just kind of like whatever opportunities present themselves, I sort of just fall in head first and cross my fingers and pray they work.
That's amazing. So would you say as an entrepreneur you're a risk taker, or do you plan very carefully every kind of way that, you know, next step and next strategy, or are you really, you know, happy to just respond to those opportunities?
I'd say it's probably an even mix of both. Like I said, I did go to business school, so I am very like hyper organized. Like everything I do is in spreadsheets, and I have notes in my phone and all of that. But when it comes to opportunities, I'm definitely like fly by the seat of my pants. I kind of try everything, and then whatever works, I head in that direction, and then sort of leave the other stuff at the wayside.
That's perfect.
Because I saw, you know, when you, I think you were in Europe, I think like Italy, and then you said, oh, I've got L'Oreal contact me, and now we're going to New York, and then we're going to go back again. Like,
yeah,
like,
that was crazy.
awesome.
So I actually flew. I was in Italy just for a vacation with my husband. We flew there on Thursday, and I had been talking to L'Oreal, but they hadn't contacted me in a while, so I just thought I didn't get the job, and I forgot about it. And it was literally an hour after my flight landed in Italy. They called me and they're like, "You got the job, yay!" And I was like, "I'm in Italy." But they were like, "We'll put you and your husband on a flight," and so they flew us to New York on Monday. I shot on Tuesday, and then Tuesday night we were back on a flight to Italy.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So traveling, I mean, obviously you travel a great deal for your job. What are the pros and cons? I mean, I'm sure from the outside there's, you know, it looks so glamorous and there's so many opportunities in travel, but, you know, what's the reality of that lifestyle for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely bonuses. The thing is, my husband also travels a lot. He's a tour manager and a musician, so he's always on the road too. So the big negative is that we don't see each other a whole lot in the months that we do travel. The big plus is that he works for bands, so he kind of has to go along with their itinerary. If they have a day off in like North Dakota, he has to have, you know, not as glamorous of a day off. But for me, I make my own plans, so I can schedule days off, I can visit friends, I can kind of do what I want with my traveling versus somebody that's traveling for like a work where their itinerary is set. So I do have that benefit, but the drawback of it is that I travel by myself. He travels with a band and a crew, and he has buddies built in, but I travel alone. So I'd say the biggest drawback of my traveling is just like immense loneliness. So it's really nice when my girls like you too in a city where I really kind of vibe and get along with, and it kind of like cuts that loneliness a little bit to have some human connection.
Of course. And do you see this sort of lifestyle, you know, is it something that you see in your long-term business plan? Are you moving, you know, in different directions? Is it sustainable in the long term?
As far as traveling
and just, you know, I guess the business model that you have right now.
Being Cherry Dollface.
Yeah. It's a business model.
So what is your actual job? And like, my actual job is being Cherry Dollface.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so all-encompassing. I do so many things. You know, honestly, I really don't know. I'm riding the wave right now. I haven't worked like a quote-unquote day job since 2012, and it's almost 2017, so I've been really lucky to be doing this for almost 5 years. Like I said, I do have a business degree, so I have that to fall back on, which girls that are listening, do not think that pinup modeling or YouTube is going to be your career. It's great. It's great as a short-term thing. It's great if you can make it happen as a hobby. But who knows? YouTube could disappear tomorrow. The internet could crash tomorrow, or Facebook could be gone, or whatever. So I definitely have always in the back of my mind, you know, the sort of day job plan. I have lots of contacts out here and marketing and PR and all of those things I was doing before. So I would hope, cross my fingers, that I could be Cherry Dollface until I'm 87 and that'll pay my bills and help me retire. But honestly, I really have no idea.
Yeah, that's what we were talking earlier a little bit about, you know, where you are now versus also girls at the minute are trying to do the same kind of thing with a lot less followers, obviously, because they're like starting now. And it's like we were trying to figure out whether, you know, your kind of success is not possible because, everyone can, be successful online if they've got the right thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, is it not as easy? Because that's not to put down what,
I
what
guess
you've
that ship sailed in terms of...
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's like, is it still possible to be like the one girl that you go to for all of the stuff? Like how you've managed to kind of
build it,
create yourself.
No, and you're absolutely right. Like I was saying before, I did get really lucky to be ahead of the wave.
Yeah.
And that was the thing is, even when I started pinup modeling, like back then it was you were either redhead, or sorry, not a redhead. You were either blonde or black hair. So you were either Marilyn or Betty. There was Sabina Kelly and Ernie Dex.
Yeah.
And the only other redhead was Dana Deluxe, and she was like a really, really dark redhead.
Mm-hmm.
So one, I was a redhead. I had red and blonde hair, which was totally different. And then I was also tattooed.
Yeah.
And in 2004, 2005, like pinup models were not tattooed. It was like you had to be traditional or you weren't pinup.
Yeah.
And so when I came on the scene, I was like a diamond in the rough, or I was probably a rough in a field of diamonds. But I was so different that people, when you saw my pictures, you knew it was me.
Yeah,
and now, all the time I have people tag me in other girls' pictures, like, oh, I thought you were Cherry Dollface. Because it's true, like, now, like, the colored hair, like Miss Diablo Rose with your pink and your purples and your unicorn hair and all of that, like, that didn't exist then. And now I feel like people associate you with that. And you were, ahead of the curve in that kind of hair. So now it's so hard to stand out. For a while I was telling like Asian girls and black girls, like, you have the edge because it's all white girls in the field. And now, there's black pinups and there's all these groups for, other races. So these days it's so hard to do anything that sort of sticks yourself out. I really don't think that in this day and age, being like a vintage guru on the internet will get you a following, like the followings that some of us girls that were like ahead of the curve have, just because it's so oversaturated.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
So what advice, off the back of that, what advice would you give to girls who are sort of trying out? I guess the thing is, you said earlier that when you started out, it's not like you had this plan. It was like, I'm going to do YouTube. That'll be fun. I'll do this. But there's a lot of people out there who see this as a career option now and are trying to build that. What would you say to them? What advice would you give them? And, from your experience?
Don't do it. That's the thing. Like I was saying before, I have girls emailing me all the time that are like,
I bet.
I'm going to quit college. And I'm going to be a model or be a YouTuber. I had a friend of mine that was like, I asked my 5th graders like what they want to be when they grow up. And half of them were like, I want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like that's not, I would say like realistically, 98% of the people you see on YouTube just happen to have an idea people liked and it was completely by accident. There was not a plan that went into it. Like, yes, of course, once you have the following, then there's a lot of like marketing and business acumen and all that goes into it. But there's no, like, we always say that that YouTube and even the internet is kind of like the wild, wild west. Like, there's no rules, there's no plan. It's not like you can be like, okay, I want to go into marketing. So I'm going to go to this school and I'm going to have this internship and do this and this and this. And then you have the steps to get there. That's not the way, like, I hate saying this, but internet fame. There's no formula for it. So girls that want to do this, I always say, great, do it. It'll be so much fun and you'll make so many new friends, but it will be a hobby.
Don't rely on it.
Don't get into it as a career. Unless, like you girls, that you have a salon and you have something in your off the internet life that is sustaining you and paying your bills and all of that. But even that, as you guys know, doing anything sort of artistic as a career is a struggle and a hustle, and it's not easy.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I have like a really little YouTube account, and I don't really have that many followers on it comparatively, like with like how many I have on Instagram and stuff. So it's not even like, I've got so and so followers on there. It doesn't always translate, I don't think. Between them
it
sometimes. So it's kind of it's a funny one these days anyway.
I think as well, I see more and more, I think people are going down, seeking that sort of internet fame and thinking, I need to do something shocking or expose something about myself and that kind of get it, and I know you share a great deal of yourself which your fans love because they love that connection that they feel with you, and then they meet you in person and you're just the loveliest person that they see, and they love it, you know. And I see that, I've seen it happen so many times, and the joy that they experience, and it's just so lovely to watch. And I guess my question is, how do you balance, you know, sharing, you know, yourself and your life with all these people, but keeping back something for yourself? You know, do you find that a hard balance to strike? Do you have almost like rules for yourself on what you share, or?
Yeah, definitely. It's honestly, it is. It's really hard. It's like a double-edged sword, because not a double-edged sword. It's a blessing and a curse, because it is so amazing, because I share a lot. I share my battles with depression, and I share body image issues, and I share all of that. So I have girls that feel so connected to me. I have girls. I mean, I had a girl in Toronto that wrote me a card that told me I literally saved her life. Like, she was in a psychiatric hospital because she had tried to kill herself, and like my videos and my message had stopped her from doing that. So being able to have that connection with other human beings is absolutely 100% priceless and the best part of my job. But also on the other side, feeling that vulnerability and also figuring out sort of what to share, because as a human, I mean, I don't ever want to be a Kardashian. A point where there's no mystery, and I also don't want to create my image and my sort of fame, or whatever you want to call it, off of me as a person. I want to do it off of me as me as sort of like from my talent and from my message. So that's where it's hard, is I don't want to be famous for being famous. I want to be like known for being more than that. And I feel like the more I share my personal life and the more I sensationalize myself, the more I'm sort of like cheapening what I do. So I like to share things. And of course, like when I haven't seen my husband in 15 weeks and I see him, I'm so excited and I want to share it with the world. Like those things I can't help from sharing. But at the same time, like there's a lot of like quiet moments, or like, you know, I'm not going to share when Trevor and I have a fight. I want to back over him with my car.
Of course,
It's hard because, you know, I blog and I like to blog about real things. So I don't think I've found a formula yet, but I do feel that I've sort of reeled in how much of my personal life I share just for my own sanity, and also to feel like I can really separate being Cherry Dollface from being Cherokee and feel like I'm still, I think it's also good for my own sort of humbleness to like not be like, oh, I'm Cherry Dollface, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, oh, I'm Cherokee, and like I'm sick today, or I'm mad, or I'm being a bitch to people, or like whatever. Like, you know, I still feel that human part of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. So would you say it's you're still learning, it's a steep learning curve? Is there anything that you would look back on and say, well, might do that differently, you know, from a kind of entrepreneurial viewpoint of the career that you've built yourself?
I mean, it's so hard to go back and think of things. I feel like just in life, there's always going to be a laundry list of things. Like, man, if I could go back when I was 12, I would learn how to be a ballerina. There's always going to be those. Like, I try not to live with regrets, because then you just sort of focus on things that you can't change, and what's the point in that, really? Honestly, I really like where I am right now, and I'm not famous. I'm not at the top of my game where I could be, maybe, if I had done certain things different, but I'm happy where I am. And I think, you know, when people ask me about my 5-year plan, my answer is always just, I hope in 5 years that I'm happy. And that's kind of where I'm going. Like, success, but most importantly, because I've definitely had those lows where everything sort of Cherry Dollface wise is going amazing, but then I come home and I cry and I hide under my covers and I hate my life. And so, you know, finding that balance where I'm happy in my personal life, I'm happy being Cherokee, but also Cherry Dollface stuff is going awesome as well. Like, so
I think that comes across, because you know, sometimes people are, you know, like, because you'll get sent quite a lot of free stuff, and then sometimes you see other people and they're like, oh, I got sent this free stuff, and they're like really kind of obvious about it, and you know, that in that kind of weird, not showing off, but you know what I mean. But
like, oh, don't you wish you were me?
Yeah, exactly. Going, look at all this free stuff I've got, and it's kind of this weird show-off thing. But you just seem like you're really happy to just support our brand, or you know, you found something really fun that you think your fans, following and everything are going to really like. I think you strike that really well in terms of just being like, you know, you are really successful and you've done so well on Instagram and YouTube and everything, but you totally feel like a normal person. And that's both online and in the flesh. Because we met each other a few months ago, and I just thought you were really nice, and you were just like you were, you know, on your online stuff, and it was like you can tell that you're doing it for the right reasons. You know, and you can see that kind of passion in being like good at what you do rather than just being wanting to be famous or recognized in the street and dress, you know.
I think that's the thing too, like especially living in LA where I live, like you see a lot of people that are so fame hungry. I'm not fame hungry, like yes, I love having a following and I love all of that, but the other thing too is when I made my YouTube channel and really anything I've done online, I've really strived to just be myself, because you see some people that are sort of playing a character of themselves and then you meet them in person and either they're really shy or they're antisocial or maybe they're just kind of rude or whatever it is, and then it sort of lets their followers down. It's the same thing with pictures. Like I don't really use a ton of filters. I don't try to over Photoshop. Like I don't filter anything in my videos. Like if I have a pimple or if I have cellulite or something is showing, I leave it. And the reason is because I meet a lot of people in person. So every video and every picture, and then you meet me and you're like, oh dang, she's old. Or
so I'm always terrified people are going to think when I meet them.
I want to be what people expect, whether it be my personality, how I look. I don't want to let anybody down because that's a lot of pressure.
That's it. And I think, you know, it would be easy to build a rod for your own back in the sense that if you create this character that isn't authentically you, then every time you meet someone, and the more successful and the more following you get, the more often you meet people just in the street, you know. So you've got to
that character all the time.
And that would be exhausting.
I definitely have had friends that have gone from like a real small following to a huge following, that either they had like a certain message or a certain platform or whatever, where when they were really small, they didn't really think about it. They were just kind of like, this, and they pushed a lot. Then when they got a huge following, it's like, oh crap, like I don't really know if I necessarily believe in that, or
it's like you're the spokesperson.
Really and then, like you said, as your following gets bigger, it's like it's exhausting to keep that facade up all the time. So I just try to be my normal self. Like I'm silly and I'm goofy. I'm not the most like sophisticated. Like I'm no Dita Von Teese. Like I'm not going to be like poised like all the time. Like, which is great. She does that great, but that's just not me. So I'm not trying to be something I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we're going to be coming to a bit of a close soon. Tell us a little bit about what you've got. So it's morning over there, it's evening for us in England, it's morning over there in LA. What have you got planned for the rest of your day? What does your day look like?
Well, when you guys contacted me, my brain was telling me it was Skype, so my brain told me that I would be on camera. So I got myself all fancy.
Oh, so sorry.
Because now I can get other things done that front of the camera. So I think I'm going to do a Facebook live chat after this.
Oh, nice. You're welcome.
And I'm going to do a bunch of boring daily things. I'm going to ship some Etsy things and work on my book. And I mean, honestly, when I'm a woman not traveling, my life is really unglamorous. It's usually going to the gym and then staying in my gym clothes all day while I work on my computer on my couch.
And I think that's what's so amazing, you know, I think one of the reasons I believe behind your success is obviously you have that business acumen and you have that business mind and you're very good at all of that sort of thing. And I think it's so fascinating. People see your brand from the outside and it's just huge. And actually it's all you, isn't it? You do everything. And I think that's why it's so authentically good in every element, because that's your success has come from you as an individual. It's not a team. It's not like a camera crew doing a video. It's not a big production. It's you, isn't it? And that's a reflection of your skills and the success that you've had. I think it's a very unique set of skills to have, isn't it, to build a personality and a brand off the back of yourself.
I have people email me all the time and they're like, I don't know if this is cherry, but could you tell us? People think that I have like a manager and an assistant. Like it's me. I'm a one-man show. But I also feel like with what I do, like, how douchey would I be if I was like having an assistant answer these heartfelt emails? You know what I mean? Like, take my life, and then it's like, Jennifer sitting behind a computer like, oh, thanks so much. This is cheery. Like, super weird.
And I kind of love that because I think a lot of people would strive, they determine success, or if I had a PA or an assistant who does it for me, and that's a mark of my success. And I think it's really fun to hear that you're like, no, it's me and I don't want that. Like, this is it, and it's not about like, oh, I have this team behind me and, that kind of big ostentatious kind of, projection.
I mean, it's also too with the internet these days. Like, the internet makes it easy. Like, I can plan all of my tours myself. I book my flights. I book my trains. I book my hotels. Like, the internet makes it so easy. I know, like, people that have a team. Like, okay, I get it. Like, my friend, I'm friends with Tess Holiday, and she's got like millions of followers. She needs a PR person and an agent. Like, she needs that. She is a celebrity. Yeah. I'm not that yet. Like, if I had a team, it would just be to be showy. Like, it would just be and ostentatious. Like, there's no reason for me to have that. Plus, like, the more people I hire, the less money I have.
Absolutely. I love that logic. It's great. Awesome. Well, I guess we're just going to finish up by asking you really, I mean, what message might you have for the girls who are listening to this? I mean, it really is the followers for Girl Crush Friday, people who are looking to find a change in their life, to looking for inspiration, motivation, and that kind of thing, really. I mean, what would be your message? I know that's a big question. No pressure.
A live message.
Change these people's lives in 30 seconds. Go. But yeah, what's having been through, I guess I'll sum it up. Having been through, like, you're very open and talk about personal things that you've been through yourself and finding happiness in life. There's a lot of people still out there in their rut and they've not found that one thing that helps them strive towards becoming happier, or at least on that path. What wisdom do you have to share?
I'm actually stroking my beard while I'm thinking.
I know, that was a huge question. It took me ages. I do apologize.
No, honestly, like, most of, I think, my success, like you guys were saying before, is like just being myself. And it's, for some reason, people just identify with me as a human. So I think, like, I have two big pieces of advice for girls in sort of whatever you do, whether it's, wanting to be on the internet or any kind of life thing, is one, to be yourself and not to sacrifice who you are as a person and your morals. Like, I get girls all the time that are like, oh, I want to be a suicide girl, and it's like, okay, cool, do you really love your body and you want to be naked on the internet, or are you doing it to get further? And it's being really like, true and real with yourself, and knowing what you feel comfortable with, what is really you, what you're going to feel comfortable with in 50 years from now. Are you going to do this outrageous thing on the internet to get followers, and then in 50 years be like, oh man, like, regret that? And that's my thing, is in what I've done, like, there might be a few things I would change here and there, but I don't regret anything. And that is huge as a human, and that's just, like, good soul stuff. Like, it's not good for your soul when you do things that don't feel right. So one would be to, like, be your true authentic self all the time, do what's right for you. And the other one is just not to be an asshole to people. Like, honestly, like, I think a lot of the opportunities that I have had, I might not have been the best person for the job or the most qualified person for the job, and that goes in my Dollface life and my Cherokee life. But I think just because I try to be a nice, friendly person, I've gotten a lot of opportunities above people, really just because of that, just being nuts. And I haven't stepped on any toes or climbed over anybody to get anywhere. So I haven't made enemies along the way, so that when, because that comes full circle. You never know who you're going to be rude to or who you're going to sort of step on to get somewhere, and then they come back in your life somehow. And if you're rude to them, they're going to try to screw you over. And I've seen it happen over and over. So just being true to yourself and not being an asshole.
I love it. It's so true. It's so true. Absolutely love that message, because what I truly believe is the one thing you remember about everyone you meet in your life is how they made you feel. And when you've met someone who's made you feel bad or worse about yourself or uncomfortable or whatever, you remember that about them so distinctively. And I think if I could sum up how I've seen you work and I've seen you interact, is that everybody who walks away is just beaming and they're so happy and they're like, oh, she was so nice, she was actually nice, like they're expecting anything.
that I'm actually nice because I'm like, wait, were you expecting
No,
that?
not at all. But I think it's that perception, isn't it? I think people are always intimidated to meet someone who, you know, has any degree of fame or that they look up to, because you're frightened they're not going to meet that expectation. And it's so nice to see it. Oh, and they're like, she's so nice, and I feel like she's my friend, and I love that. It's so
people,
lovely.
like girls who have been to your stuff, like in the Leeds salon, and then they've been in afterwards, and they're like, "Oh, it's this love cherry. That's the best day of my life," and it's just the loveliest thing to see.
It's really cool.
You know, I had a girl in one of my classes on this last tour, and she came up to me and she showed me this picture, and she's like, this was the first time I ever did Victor rolls, and it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they were horrible. One of the worst rolls I ever saw. But she showed me, she had messaged me on Instagram and was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, or just like, here's my first attempt, like, how are they? And I had written her back, and I was like, they look amazing, like, keep going, keep practicing. And she was like, honestly, she's like, it was your encouragement. She's like, if you had been like, oh, they're not so good, she's like, I probably never would have tried them ever again. But she came to the class and her rolls were amazing. And so just knowing that, like, just being kind to somebody had encouraged them, even if, I mean, if I had been honest, I would have been like, I would give up now. And
like, they suck. There's no good that can come out of that by just saying, oh, that's not right.
And everyone starts somewhere, don't they?
Yeah.
Helping them along the way. Oh, that's amazing. I feel like that's the perfect. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, we all start somewhere, so you know you got to encourage the beginners.
Yeah,
amazing. I just feel like that's the perfect place to end on such a high note. That's so lovely. But thank you so much for your time. I know you're so busy, and I know that the girls listening and men listening will absolutely love hearing your story again. So thank you so much. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, guys. It was so nice to talk to you. I miss you too.
Yeah, I know. We're going to come and live near you soon. Amazing. Oh, well, have an amazing day. Thank you so much again, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Guys.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.